What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. I know I said that I would be doing some more live action videos, and it is coming. It's just the footage is taking a little bit of time. So today we're going to talk about creating a pet safe garden, because this, on the podcast that I do, the Epic Gardening Podcast, I've gotten a ton of questions about this. And so I figured, let's get a post up on the site. Let's talk about it, because if we're gardening and we have pets, we definitely don't want our plants to be interfering with the health of our pets, right? And so here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about ornamental plants that might be toxic, edible plants that might be toxic, and then just some like general rules for creating a garden that is in sync with your pets. It's not going to harm your pets at all. So let's go ahead and get into it. And again, I'm not a veterinarian or a pet doctor of any kind. This is just the research that I've put together through my own experience and through living in a home that has pets. And so here we go. Toxic ornamental plants. First thing we're going to kick it off with is aloe vera. So aloe vera, for us human beings, aloe vera has a ton of different benefits. However, for pets, it's somewhat toxic, mild to moderate. If your cat or dog is eating aloe vera and then starts to vomit, have diarrhea or anorexia or something like that, you definitely want to make sure and take them into the vet and just maybe place aloe vera in an area of your home or your garden that your pets cannot get to. All right, next thing, lilies. These are very popular. We grow lilies all the time in the garden, in our ornamental gardens. However, they are relatively dangerous to cats. I would say moderate to severe as far as their toxicity levels go. So definitely watch out for lilies. Daffodils are another one. So these are brilliant, beautiful flowers. We like growing daffodils in our garden. However, toxic to both dogs and cats, and that's because they contain lycorine, which has emetic properties. It can trigger vomiting, it can trigger diarrhea, abdominal pain, respiratory depression, all sorts of bad stuff that we don't want our pets to have, right? So look for drooling, look for nausea, look for vomiting, look for diarrhea, anything like that. Now, here's one, the Dieffenbachia plant, also known as dumb cane. Dumb cane is a very popular houseplant because it's really easy to care for. It's a super simple plant. However, dumb cane, it's called dumb cane because of the numbing effect that it has even on the human body. And so what you're going to see is if your cat or dog eats dumb cane, they're going to have swelling of the lips, the swelling of the tongue, the oral cavity, the upper airway. So drooling, because they're not going to be able to control their mouth, oral pain, pawing at the mouth, and vomiting. Next, we've got foxglove. Actually, a very beautiful looking plant, beautiful flower, these trumpet flowers that are bright pink, but it is exceptionally poisonous to dogs, cats, and us as human beings. And so all parts of this plant are toxic. Make sure that you do not have this anywhere within reach of your pets, because there's just some serious problems that can go on with the heart muscle when they consume foxglove. Sago palms. I grew up with sago palms in my yard, and fortunately my dogs never got to them, but if they had, they would be looking at a toxin known as cycasin, which is what that's the toxic part of the sago palm. So vomiting, blood and feces, heightened thirst, increased urine production. Just make sure that you keep that sago away from your pets. Next, we've got the infamous tulip. So when your pets are going to eat a tulip, if they're going for a little tulip munch, then what's going to happen is they're going to vomit it up, they're going to get nausea, they're going to drool, they're going to have diarrhea, their heart rate is going to increase. So definitely keep these far away from your pets. If you're growing beds of tulips, put them in an area where your pets just really can never reach. Next, we've got oleander. And so all parts of oleander are toxic. They carry cardiac glycosides that can cause heart problems. We do not want that in our pets. Of course we don't. So keep that away from your pets as well. So for the rest of these ornamentals, I'm going to go through them relatively quickly just because the toxicity symptoms and the reasons why you wouldn't want them in your garden are the exact same. And so we've got cyclamen, we have chrysanthemums, we have ivy, English ivy, which is pretty good if you grow it in the home in a container. Otherwise, it's relatively invasive. So I would recommend not growing it outdoors and definitely keeping it away from your pets, because it's not exceptionally toxic, but it is relatively dangerous to pets. Next, you've got jade. So jade is a very popular plant in the home because it's easy to care for. But jade plants are not great for your pets. We don't really know the exact toxic ingredient that pets are reacting to, but it can cause vomiting, incoordination, slowed heart rate, stuff like that you just really don't want. Okay, so now something you might be more interested in if you're more of a veggie gardener. So what are some toxic edible plants for pets? The number one that I'm going to talk about is a tomato. So one of the most common vegetables that all of us grow, I grow it all the time, is the tomato. And that is relatively toxic to pets when it is eaten as a green tomato. So when it's a ripened tomato fruit, it is non-toxic. It's perfectly safe if it's eaten by your cat or dog. However, when it is green, it contains something called solanine, which is a glycoalkaloid. And in small amounts, that's not very toxic. It's not a big deal. But if your cat or dog goes out and gorges on a bunch of green tomatoes, it can actually result in severe poisoning. And so vomiting, diarrhea, lethargy, weakness, confusion, all of that stuff is a symptom of nomming on some green tomatoes for your pets. So definitely avoid that. Next, anything in the allium family. That's going to be onions, garlic, chives, leeks, etc. These are really popular, obviously, in the garden, but to cats and dogs, they are really not too great. They cause rupturing of red blood cells, gastroenteritis, anemia-like symptoms, and in small doses, a lot of this stuff is in small doses, it's okay, and a lot of the time your pet is going to eat it, realize it doesn't taste good, or they react somewhat poorly to it, and then never eat it again, but it's still a good idea to keep it away so they never even have to learn that lesson. Next, we have grapes and or raisins, which is just a dehydrated grape. And so these are problems mostly because it can cause kidney failure in pets. And so they're tasty for us. Do not let your cat or dog gorge on some grapes or raisins. Okay, the next thing is sort of a category. So it's fruit trees. Now, trees are going to produce a wide variety of fruits, nuts, other tasty things. However, a lot of them aren't safe for pets. So the pits, we're talking about any sort of stone fruit. So like apricots, peaches, plums, even avocados, not necessarily poisonous, but if they're eating the fruit and not understanding that there's a pit inside, then yeah, that's going to be a big deal for your pets. Similarly, seeds from like something like a cherry or an apple contain potentially poisonous materials. Again, it's a small amount, so it might not be a big deal, but again, why risk it, right? There's no real reason to test that theory. Citrus. Citrus is not really a poison or a toxin for your cat or dog, but a lot of breeds are going to have an intolerance to that high level of citric acid. And so for me, it's just like, why even bother? There's no necessity for them to eat a citrus fruit in the first place. So let's just avoid it, right? And don't even worry about it. Next one is going to be nut trees. So a lot of nut trees or tree nuts are going to be problematic for pets because they're going to cause intestinal blockages, upset stomachs. They can contain some toxins that cause seizures, neurological symptoms, and stuff like that. As a general rule, just avoid tree nuts for your pets. There's no real reason, again, nutritionally speaking, for them to eat it, and it can only really cause problems. So just avoid it, right? Okay, what about things that are safe? Because I've talked about 1,000,001 different plants that aren't safe for pets. What about things that are safe for pets? So if maybe you saw some of those that you're growing in your garden and you have a pet and you're like, what can I swap it out for? What can I change it for? And so here are some ornamental options for you. You've got the black-eyed Susan, which is a classic plant that is completely safe. African violets, hibiscus, snapdragons, alyssum, zinnia, impatiens, asters, pansies, magnolia bush, petunias, sweet potato vine. That's a really good one because it'll grow an ornamental sweet potato, but it's just a really cool plant to grow. Now, from an edibles perspective, this is a short list as well because there's many, many edibles that are safe around pets. But a lot of the classic herbs, so I'm not going to read them off there, but you can see them right there: basil, lavender, sage, etc. And then you've got stuff like catmint, which is actually catnip is in the catmint family, the Nepeta family. Then you've got flowering currant, raspberries, carrots, radishes, a lot of different stuff, leafy greens, all sorts of stuff like that. And so here are some things I'm going to leave you with. Just a couple recommendations for creating a garden that's safe for pets that are outside of a specific plant recommendation, right? And so good idea in general is to think about organic solutions. And so if you've got aphids or fleas or any sort of garden pest, instead of going straight to a chemical fungicide or herbicide or insecticide, try some sort of integrated pest management technique. So maybe try introducing beneficial insects if you've got aphids, get some ladybugs in there, or use diatomaceous earth because that's harmless to pets, but it's really harmful to pests, right? So that's a really good option. Beneficial nematodes are also a good idea. Here's another one. Avoid any mulch that might be dangerous for your pets. So some mulches can be poisonous. So something that's interesting is cocoa bean mulch or cocoa shell mulch is a really good example, because I'm sure we all know that chocolate is not very good for dogs, right? Well, chocolate is made from cocoa, and the cocoa shells, if they're going to eat on that, it's really not too healthy for the dogs. So cocoa mulch, not a great idea. Here are some good ones. Cedar mulch, pine mulch. Those are really good and also good for some pest control as well. Rubber mulches can be a good choice. I prefer not to use them personally. I'd rather use a mulch that's going to slowly break down in the soil and actually build my soil over time instead of dumping old chopped up tires on my soil. So that's my personal technique and my personal preference, but that's something that you can definitely think about. Then there's the question of, hey, do I want artificial grass or natural grass in the garden? Does it make a difference for the pets? Well, if you're a pet owner, you may want to consider using a synthetic turf. That's up to you. I personally would rather just not have a yard at all and just only have garden beds or rows and then have a nice organic mulch in between them. But you may want to consider an artificial lawn if your cats and dogs are just eating all your grass and throwing it up over and over again, which I definitely know some dogs and cats who have done that in my past, personally. Okay, well, that's pretty much it, guys. There's a little bit more on the website if you want to check it out. There's ways to pet-proof your garden, keep your dog and cat out of it, or maybe another pest if you have another pest. I personally am battling a skunk right now. So that's it. If you do want to see more, you can just go to the website. It's epicgardening.com. And then if you want to hear about the book that I'm writing, which is coming out spring 2019, it's called The Field Guide to Urban Gardening. You can just go to epicgardening.com/book. And I'm going to show you the page right here and sign up for the early readers list because, again, it's coming out next spring. And so that means I'm writing it right now. And I have a group of about 50 or 100 gardeners right now that are helping me figure out what they want to read about in this book. And so you just have to go to this page, you type your name and email in here, and I'm going to send you like early release chapters, hydroponic plans that I've been preparing for the book, all sorts of guides and pictures and stuff like that. And you'll just be a part of shaping a really cool book that's going to come out and be published and be in bookstores everywhere. So if that's interesting to you, I'll leave the link in the video description. And if this video is interesting to you, definitely leave a comment, hit the subscribe button, and hit the little notification bell if you want to know about these videos when they come out right away. All right, that's it for now. Good luck in the garden and keep growing.